Hi everyone, really nice seeing you all here today. I'm Divij. I'm just going to share my screen now and I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, a little bit about what I've been doing for the last 7 years in the games industry. And I hope you find it interesting and I hope you take away something positive from this. Uh, right, do you see the slides? Is that fine?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Okay, great. Yeah. And at any point, if you can't hear me, if you need me to repeat anything, just let me know. Right. So I'm Divij. Right now, I work as a software engineer at a company called Improbable. I'll tell you a bit more about that as well. But what I want to talk to you about today is 5 different ways that you can be in the games industry. So the reason that I want to talk about this is when you talk about the games industry, when you talk about working in games, there's typically two different images that come to mind. The first one is maybe you're envisioning Grand Theft Auto or you're envisioning FIFA or Call of Duty. And the other way is maybe you're just envisioning creating your own games and bringing them to people and sharing them with people. But I just want to share with you today that in the last 7 years that I've been working in games, in roles that have sort of been like a gameplay programmer, which is a mix of a game design skill set and a programmer skill set. And what I found in the last 7 years is that there's many more ways to be working in games. There are many more ways to be creating cool things, to be learning, to be improving, to be doing fun things, and to also keep kind of growing and learning and pushing your career forward. And I just want to share those ideas with you. So first off, I just want to show you what we're building right now at Improbable. So Improbable is a London-based startup that's been around for about 11 years. And we're this sort of games tech startup. And what we're doing right now is we're building the metaverse. And what that means is we're building a platform that uses games technology, but kind of goes beyond games, and it creates a way for brands like Major League Baseball, like games companies, like football players. It creates a platform for them to create online experiences that they can invite their fans and their communities to, and then they can have those thousands of players, thousands of users all together in that online space, speaking to each other, interacting with each other, and playing like quick fun games together. So this is just a little video of what that tech looks like. I hope the video and the audio came through all right there.
Uh, Not audio, but we saw the showroom.
All right, cool. Yeah, I was hoping the audio would come through as well. Just a second, maybe I can do something about that for anything else that I might have. Oh yeah, there's a different one for sharing stuff. But anyway, that's why I hope the subtitles were visible and you got an idea about what that is. But the main thing that we do is that we have very large, high-scale multiplayer. So normally you can't have more than 100 players or so in a single instance, kind of playing a game together. But our tech allows that to happen for up to like 10,000 players. So that's the kind of thing that we're pushing. So yeah, that's just something that I work on right now.
Those are all players in one session, in one game.
In a single session, yes, exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Right. So next slide. Yeah. So I want to start with a quick little story. Does anyone know what this game is? Just raise your hand if you have any idea.
One knows? Oh, we got League of Legends here.
No.
World of Warcraft.
Close to World of Warcraft. Yeah. So this is a game called RuneScape. This has been around since around 2001 in various different forms. It was created by a company called Jagex, which is actually headquartered not far from you in Cambridge. And that company has been around since like 2001. So my story here is that this was a game that I really loved when I was about 16 years old. And you go online, you fight monsters, you do quests, and you get things, you level up, and then you can go fight even stronger boss monsters, that sort of thing. Similar to World of Warcraft. And what I found was, while I really enjoyed the game, this game was a bit of a grind. What that means is there were these boring tasks that you'd have to do for a long time, like mining or woodcutting or fishing, so that you could unlock the ability to do the more fun parts of the game, like slaying difficult boss monsters and three-headed dragons. And at that time, something came out for this game called bots. And what these bots would do, they're magical. What they could do is they would automate the grind for you. They would automate the boring parts of the game, so you wouldn't have to spend time or energy on that, and you could save up resources and time to actually do the fun parts. But what I found was this made me think there's so many other different things that I could also automate in the game, more boring parts of the game, so that I could do the fun stuff. And that made me want to learn to create my own bots. And I looked into that and I found out I'd need to know how to write JavaScript in order to create those bots. So I went to a local institute near me and I asked them, could you give me a course on JavaScript? They said, if you've never done programming before, we would actually recommend that you start with C or C++ instead. Thankfully, I listened to them and I took that C and C++ course and I just never looked back. And that's the reason that I got started with game design, games programming, and engineering in general. If not for this game, that wouldn't have happened. I want to start talking to you about what I've been doing. So right now I live in Dundee. It's a really nice, really fun, friendly student city based in Scotland. The university you see there on the top right is Aberdeen. That's where I studied. So if at all you're interested in courses in games, design, art, programming, any of those things, consider Aberdeen, consider Dundee. It's a lovely place to live. It's also right on the water, and you can see some really amazing views of the water from here. Really nice natural place. And it's known as a great place to study anything related to games. And it's also how I got started. Before this, actually, I did a 1-week course in Unity design and Unity game design and development, very similar to what you're doing right now. So that's also something that helped me get started in the beginning. So what are different ways that you can end up working in games? So one way that you can end up working in games is that you look for local part-time job opportunities and you find a small family business that creates e-learning content for the oil and gas industry, and they want to add VR games for training for oil and gas industry to that. And they're looking for someone to be a Unity designer and developer to help them do that. So that's actually how I got my first job, and that's how I got started. I won't play this whole video, it's long and it's not that great. But what we were doing is we were creating in virtual reality these simulations of offshore oil rigs so that we could give those VR simulations to the employees of oil and gas industries. They could put on the headset and they can see what it's like being at that offshore rig and interact with it, learn how to operate it, learn the safety procedures for it, all while they're just sitting in a safe space and don't have to spend the time and money to go to the offshore rig to learn. So that was one of the very first jobs that I did. And I learned quite a lot doing this about Unity development, game design, creating interactive educational experiences. So yeah, just going to go to the next slide. Yeah. So here's another way that I worked in the games industry. So what I did was I actually wrote a LinkedIn article about a big project that I did. And that was actually my honors project from university. And that article got noticed by this really small AI startup based in Spain. And they needed someone to do Unity design and development for them. So in this case, they were interested in creating biology-inspired artificial intelligence. And AI is something that's all just numbers and text, and it's very hard to visualize that and get people interested and excited by that. So they wanted me to take the data that they had and create interesting and fun and exciting visualizations of that using Unity. So I'll just quickly play just the start of this video for you. But what I did for them is I created this viewer for 3D data of the connectome or the nervous system data of a worm. And I learned a lot doing this project. I learned about if you're making interactive UI, how do you make that easy to interact with? How do you make that satisfying to interact with? I learned visual art stuff because I needed to make these particle effects like you see right now, which is something that's used a lot in games. So you'll see this kind of stuff in like sci-fi games as well. So how do you make these really good particle effects? How do you make that sort of art? And on the technical side, I had to implement a pathfinding algorithm, which means when you're firing off these paths that you see highlighting here, how do you fire off a path that goes from this node to the end node? And how do you make it follow the most optimal path possible to get to that end node? And that's something that happens a lot in games as well. Whenever you're moving characters around in games, you need pathfinding. So really, really interesting work here as well. Next, I got a short 3-month contract working as a gameplay programmer for a small indie game studio based in Lausanne, Switzerland, on a title called Tawaga of Mech Shadows. They needed some extra help kind of pushing the game through in the last 3 months, and they needed to bring on a few extra people in order to hit that publisher deadline. I got to work on a super interesting stuff here with a team of designers, artists, writers, project managers. And part of the things that I did is got to make these some of these monsters that you see in this game right here. I programmed the AI for these monsters. I got to create, design, and put in new boss monster encounters in the game. And I got to design and program a flying mode in the game. So all of this wouldn't have been possible without looking out for these remote job contracts, even if it was a very short one. In the end, this game got released as one of the first titles for Apple Arcade. If you ever heard of Apple Arcade or used Apple Arcade, and yeah, it was a really fun project. So right before my job right now, I joined a place called InGame as an R&D fellow in technology innovation. So InGame was created as the UK's dedicated center for games R&D, and was created as a collaboration between 3 different universities. So it was in this very unique space. It was actually funded by the government, funded by universities rather than being a private company. And what we did was we worked with people in the local games industry. They would come to us with challenges and ideas for things that they wanted to do. Either they were not a games company, but they wanted to become a games company, or they wanted to find a way to use games tech to create a new product or get a new form of funding. So as an example, there's a few different problems that we explored. I worked with a narrative designer to explore this idea of can we generate character backstories using procedural content generation and artificial intelligence. And what we came up with is this simulation. So what you see right now is a top-down view of a map. These green things are islands, and the red things are inhabited islands. And through this simulation, we can simulate 500 years of the lives of thousands of villagers. So what these villagers will do is they'll meet other villagers, they'll get into relationships with them, they'll have kids, they'll explore the other islands, and they'll inhabit those other islands. But bad things can happen to them too. Monsters will attack their islands, and they might lose everything, and they might become really desperate and they might become pirates instead. And then after being pirates for a while, they might give up on being pirates and go back to being a guard on an island. And what this does is it gives us hundreds of these character stories to sort through, to filter through, and to read. And we can find the interesting ones and we can take them, we can use them in a game, or we could just apply them directly to game characters. So that's one of the things we explored here. Another thing we explored is actually augmented reality. So the idea of this one here is that can we use augmented reality to create experiences for museums? So this is a sort of retelling of a story from 1930, of the time when a little boy from Clydebank in Glasgow had to leave to escape the bombings that were happening there during World War II. And he came to Lochee in Dundee to live with his cousins and with his aunt. So what you see here is when you look through your phone, you see the streets of that time of Lochee on the right and the left, and you see some attractive things like a car driving towards you, and you can walk into a house and you can see what it's like, and you can experience the story of this kid in that time. Another thing is on the right here, we created like this little art installation in augmented reality again that lets you explore the story of two people from long ago called Fanny and Stella, who are sort of figures of LGBTQ history. And you get to explore their story and understand it and interact with it a little bit. Another example here is you can take opportunities to work with some cutting edge technology like augmented reality. What you see on the right here is a Unity game made in a week or two. And what this does is it lets two players use their phones to play a multiplayer augmented reality game together. You sort of like step into the spirit world and look for ghosts around you, and you fight them off together. And again, powered by Unity, if your experience takes a couple of weeks to make, and you can really like experiment with new technology quite easily. So yeah, I already told you a little bit about Improbable. I'm a software engineer now, and what I've been doing is I've been working with this company of about 200 or so people. They're quite brilliant. They're quite humble. They're amazing to work with. Another thing that this has been, so one of the reasons this has been really cool and really interesting for me is that it has exposed me to the web. It has exposed me to what web backend engineering looks like, which is similar to what big software companies do. So what we do is a combination of games tech and web technology, and it really gives you the chance to explore all of that. So I've moved from working on gameplay and being able to explore kind of beyond that and more deeper into tech, like in platform engineering and in engine and graphics rendering engineering. So it's been a great opportunity for that. So before I stop talking, there's two more things that I just wanted to talk to you about that I thought you might find interesting. This is just another example of an event we did at Improbable. But what I want to ask you right now is, I'm sure all of you have heard about ChatGPT at this point, right? So what I want to ask you is, how many of you have tried using ChatGPT or are actively using ChatGPT?
Yeah.
Yeah, a few. Right. So ChatGPT presents a really big opportunity and a really big risk. In my opinion, you're going to be you're going to be the first generation that has access to a very superpowered search tool and AI tool right from the start of your learning journey and from your careers. So here's what I would say about this. Think of ChatGPT as a superpowered search tool, as a superpowered Google. So it's going to speed up your learning abilities quite quickly. You're going to learn much faster than anyone did before you. It's going to give you opportunities to implement and create things more quickly as well. You can use it for a bunch of different things. You can use it for asking questions to things you don't understand. You can use it to generate code for you. You can use it to generate images for you. You can use it to write stories for you. So what I want to encourage you to do is to not ignore the tool, but at the same time, don't forget about fundamentals either. So this tool is going to be really important. What you want to avoid doing is copying from it and not understanding the answers it's giving you. So let's say you're building a new project. I would say start with YouTube, start with Google, look for tutorials that'll help you build what you want to build. If you get stuck at some point and you normally go to Google to ask, hey, how do I write this piece of code? Or how do I design this thing? Or how do I do this particular function in Unity? Try using ChatGPT for that. It'll give you a quick answer, an easy answer very quickly in most cases. But don't forget to try and understand what it's saying to you. And one last thing I want to say is I have a lot of friends who are lecturers, and there's been this huge uptick in the last year of students submitting things that have been purely written or designed by ChatGPT for things like their essays, their even their dissertations or answers to questions or code. And I just want to say it is 100% easy to tell that something has been written by ChatGPT, and you will get caught really easily. So use ChatGPT to help you, but don't copy of it. Think of it as your own personal assistant. Start using it, start asking it questions, start using those answers. But yeah, if you just copy something that it gives you, everyone can tell that it's been written by ChatGPT. It's very easy to tell. Yeah, and just one last thing for you. I think one of the best things about being in the games industry or just a game designer or a game developer in this space is that we have a field that's very accessible and that has some of the best communities around. So as an example, if you're trying to get into something else, like if you were interested in like mechanical engineering or journalism or marketing instead, you would not find it as easy to get into and you wouldn't find as supportive communities as you will in games. So here's what I would encourage you to do. Look for some communities about the things that you're interested in. Discord, Reddit, and Facebook groups are great. Look up game jams if you haven't looked up game jams before. And secondly, look for mentorship and training opportunities with foundations like the IGDA Foundation and Limit Break. You're already in a community right now, which is amazing. It's really good that you're doing this. This is the start. This is the start of what a community looks like. But there's even more communities that you can use that you can get help from. As an example, I applied for a scholarship from the IGDA Foundation back when I was a student, and I actually got that scholarship. And what that meant was they paid for me to travel to San Francisco and attend a game developers conference there. 100% paid for by them. I didn't have to pay anything. And it was an amazing experience. I met so many people. I met some amazing people who worked on amazing games. I got access to a mentor who helped me with my CV, who helped me with understanding the direction I wanted to take with my work, and all of that with no cost to me. They're extremely supportive. And then I actually went back to the community as a mentor to try and help other people. And that was also a great experience because when you become a mentor in a community like that, you actually meet other mentors, you work together with them, and you still get the benefit of the community. It's the same thing for Limit Break. Limit Break is another one you can look at. Yeah, and that's about it. Find the right opportunities for you. There were a weird mix of opportunities that I got over the last 7 years, and I wouldn't have gotten them if I wasn't looking really broad, if I wasn't thinking about universities, small and large companies, research fellowships, knowledge transfer partnerships, kickstart schemes, graduate schemes. Just look up those things, right? If you're interested at all, just copy paste those terms into Google, look them up. You'll get a lot of information that I promise you a lot of people around you don't think about those things. A lot of people around you don't have that sort of knowledge. They don't know what a kickstart scheme is or a knowledge transfer partnership is. If you look up those things, you'll find amazing opportunities. Yeah, but that's it from me. This was me in San Francisco at the Zynga office, thanks to the IGDA Foundation. So yeah, lots of opportunities out there. If there's anything you're interested in, ask me. I'm quite happy to answer questions. You can scan this QR code if you want. Find me on LinkedIn. Send me a message anytime. Questions? Happy to answer anything.
That was so good.
Yeah, that was very enjoyable. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Does anyone have any questions? At least one? Or maybe when they're still thinking of one, but I'll shoot one your way. So the first one I have is what do employers look for in a portfolio? Like if I say I have this bunch of projects that I've made, what exactly are they looking for if they wanted to hire me?
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. So it depends on a lot of things. First of all, it depends on what your field is. So there'll be different expectations based on whether you're going for a design role, programming role, art role, something like that. Those are the main big ones. Project management is another big one in games. So it really depends on that. I've seen a lot in the programming and design space. I know a little less about art and writing and project management. In the programming and design space, it's just start with the basics. So the basics are get some projects done and get those projects up in a space where it's easy to view them. It should be easy to browse them. It should be easy to read about them. You can use a few different tools. You could put them up on LinkedIn. There's a way you can actually have like tiles for your project. It's really easy to browse them. You can even create like a Google Doc and you just copy paste some videos and images of your screen of your projects and just add in a few highlights about things that you did. So as an example, if you worked with a team to create a small mobile game, put up an image of that mobile game, put up a video of it, and have 3 or 4 bullet points that talk about what exactly your role was in that game. What are the things that you did there? Anything impressive in terms of something new and something difficult that you did there? Like maybe it's your first time working with really complex 3D animations, right? Make sure you highlight that. Maybe it was your first time writing pathfinding to make sure that the AI characters could get from point A to point B easily. Make sure you highlight that. So that's the main thing. Get your projects up there somewhere. Make sure they're easy to scroll through and browse, and make sure you have 3 or 4 key bullet points about them. That's the biggest thing that's going to make the biggest difference.
Sounds great. Did everyone got with that? Nice, nice. Does anyone else have a question that they feel curious about? Don't be shy. It's okay. It doesn't even matter if you think it sounds silly. Just ask him, you know, he's there. It's very insightful. Yeah, just do it. No? I know you will. Okay, cool. I'll shoot another one your way while these guys are trying to get their questions ready. How different is developing projects for myself, like in my bedroom, to making games for a company with sort of, you know, business goals and things like that?
Yeah, that's a good one as well. So there's a few different things that happen when you're working with a company. The number one difference there is collaboration becomes a big part of it. So there's this thing that people will often say about getting a programming job, and that's that you can be like the best programmer in the world, but you won't get hired if you're not easy to work with. And there's these really important soft skills that you develop by just working on team projects with other people, by speaking to other people, and by just being a nice person. And those are really important. And there's like a baseline you have to meet for that already in order to get hired and work at a company. And then you develop those skills even further when you start working at a company with a bunch of different people as opposed to by yourself. So that's one thing. The other thing is that I think you learn to be a lot more organized when you're working with other people. When you're working by yourself, you don't have like a very solid project plan. You don't have a very solid timeline for when you want to get things done. And if you're creating things, if you're creating like art assets, you're adding new pieces of design to your game, or you're creating new code, you tend to not be very organized about that. And that's completely fine, because when you're working by yourself, your number one goal is, I want to be motivated to be working on this every single day. I want to get things done. I want to tick off boxes as I add new features to my game. And I want to see that reflected on the screen. I want to see this new thing that I put in working right now in front of me. And that's completely fine. That's an amazing starting point. You're getting things done. You're getting something built. That's more than a lot of people ever do. But what you find is when you start to work with people, when you start to work at a company, the way that you organize your work becomes really important, because you'll find that rather than working on a big piece of code that does everything that the character needs to do. You're working on a small piece of it while someone else is working on another piece of it at the same time. And the way that works well is you learn about things like object-oriented programming. So that lets you kind of like split up the way that code is written so that it's more modular. And you learn about things like version control, which is a very cool piece of technology that lets multiple people work on a project at the same time. And that extends beyond programming to even designers, artists, everyone. The way that people collaborate together on a big project is through the use of version control. It just kind of like syncs your files on everyone's PCs. So you can all work on different pieces at the same time. And quite often, even you can work on the same pieces at the same time. And it just does that work of like merging all your work together for you. So yeah, those are some of the things that you'll see when you start working in teams.
That's very cool, because you're saying like it is very like you have to consider other people all the time, right? And you have to consider all the other projects going on at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Say that? Yeah. Cool.
And yeah, honestly, just caring makes a big difference. Just being a person who's nice, who wants to work with other people, who's talking to them, who's speaking to them, who's collaborating with them, that puts you ahead of a lot of people who won't kind of put in the effort or who won't care enough to do that.
For sure. Does anyone else have a question? No?
I have a question. You probably we can probably talk to you all day. A couple of questions. So when you came out of uni, you showed a couple of short-term projects that you had, and you said that you found them on. You kind of had one in Switzerland, I think. You had the one which was the AI.
Mm-hmm.
Was there a certain place that you found those?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the very first one was a local company that was doing the VR stuff. And the reason I found that is just because I was looking at job boards on Facebook. So this one in particular was started by the university I was studying at, Aberdeen. So they had their own Facebook page where they would highlight local job listings. And I was one of the only people in my class who was actually following that page. So no one else saw that, and I saw that. So I got on that. I talked to those people, and they were happy to work with me. So that one helped a lot. The second one is the one that I got in Spain. And as I was saying, the reason I got that is I just talked about the work that I did. There's a university project that I did, nothing super impressive, just that I spent 6 to 8 months on it. It wasn't with other people. It wasn't with a company. It was not professional. It was just an individual project. But I talked about the interesting parts of it. I showed screenshots and videos, and I talked about the technical work I did on that. And someone found that article, they liked it, and they wanted to work with me for that reason. The third one was the remote contract working with a Swiss company. And the reason I found that was because of Discord communities. So on Discord, I'm trying to remember the exact community. There's a few different ones. There's ones dedicated to Unity. There's ones dedicated to Unreal Engine. And there's one, I think, that's called Game Marketeers. And it's just a group of indie developers from around the world. And when they have a need for an extra person, they'll advertise that need there. So just by being on that group, I wasn't even active. I didn't really speak to many people there. Just by keeping an eye out there, I found this work.
Okay, so would you say you're quite go-getting? Or do you think... Yeah, I mean, everyone's got different levels of being proactive. Would you say you're quite up? Sorry, this is quite personal, but I think for young people coming through, trying to pitch how go-getting to be is a bit of a question. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah.
Do people in your industry wait for things to find you, or do you think you have to be quite looking, searching, just keeping your eye on the ball? Do you think you have to be quite punchy with it?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So I'll say that you don't have to be doing everything all at once. So all the different things that I talked about here, I was doing them at different points of my life, right? I didn't find those jobs in those places all at the same time. So as long as you're doing something you're doing some work, you're talking about it, you're active in your job search in one way or the other. That can be either you're actively applying to roles, or if you're not actively applying, you're doing the work to create your portfolio, create your CV, put your projects up, write an article about one of those projects. If then you've done that stuff, you have some downtime. In that downtime, if you join a game jam. So if you're not aware of that, game jams are these quite often online events. We can just sign up for one of them. There'll be like a 24 or 48-hour period in which people get together and they just make a game together. And you can sign up for one of these online. There'll be other people who are signing up without teams. So you just speak to them online, you form a group with them, and you just make something cool together. The deadline works really well for that because you have like 48 hours to get a game done. So it really focuses everyone to put their best effort in for those 48 hours. Some people pull all-nighters, so you don't have to do that. Some people will get it done with like 2 days, 8 hours each. So the thing is, you get to work together with a team, you get exposed to new things, you challenge yourself, you push yourself, and you have a working game at the end of it. That feels amazing. It's a very good portfolio piece. It shows that you care about the job that you do. It really helps you push your skills forward. It helps you get an artifact that you can show to people at the end of it. So go do those things. Just make something, talk about it. Make something, talk about it. Just repeat that process.
That's actually really interesting that you say that, because I was thinking, so for a lot of the young people we have here, everyone's obviously still learning, and everyone's very generalist. They enjoy the animation side, the programming side, the level design side. What do you think? Do you think it's important to, if you want to be a game developer, just in the general sense, do you think it's important to specialize, like, for example, in your role where you're a programmer, or even specialize even further into that and become a specific type of programmer? Do you think there's a power in specializing, or do you think it's more powerful to be a generalist?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I would say further down the line, specialize for sure, but there's nothing wrong at all by starting out as a generalist. So start out with the thing that makes you interested in learning something and doing something. So as an example, I started out quite similar to what you're doing right now, just taking a week-long course in Unity, how to build something in Unity. And for a long time, my only motivation was I want to make fun stuff in Unity. I want to make fun games in Unity. It's interesting to like design stuff. It's interesting to create the artwork, to create the levels, to place things in and be able to play that. And the thing is, the really nice thing is that this fun thing that we do of creating games, it actually has an industry in front of it. So after you do that for a while, if you decide that I want to be part of this industry, I want to get a job doing this, then you can do that. And at that point, it's very useful to specialize in one of those areas. So the main ones are programming, design, project management, maybe writing as well, writing or narrative design as it's called. So if you pick one of those, spend some more time on that, you can choose that as your specialization. Another thing is smaller companies are quite okay with generalists. So at smaller companies, you might find someone who's a mix between a developer and a designer. If you want to work at a big company, so sort of like Electronic Arts, FIFA, Rockstar, Grand Theft Auto, something like that, or even you want to look at a big tech company in the future or something like that, they really want specialists. So if that becomes your goal at some point, then at that point it would be very good if you just kind of like focus on just one thing, just that one thing that you're interested in.
So do you think they, like, as going into being a game developer, they should probably think what skills do I actually have before I entered this, right? Like, whether was I into music before, did I do art before, or something like that? How can I bring something like that into the games industry?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you don't have to start with that immediately. Like I was saying, just try making stuff first. Just make games. Just make 2D art. Make 3D art. Look at the tools that help you do that, and just see how much you like it. Just see how fast you're progressing with it, and that'll help you decide what you want to specialize in.
Nice. Anyone have a question before I ask my last one? Sebastian, you got a question?
How different is game design to backend dev or what, in your opinion?
Sorry, did you hear?
Yeah, could you repeat that?
How different is programming for backend opposed to programming for like games?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So there's a way to think of it is that both backend development and games development are sort of specializations of programming. So there are a lot of core fundamentals that are common between them and carry across to either one. But the specialization is different. It's not as easy as, you know, if you're writing games, you can immediately start with backend development. But if you do game development for a while, let's say like you do it for a year or two, your core programming skills become really strong. And then as you start to learn this new area, which is backend development has its own set of tools. So in a way that you're using Unity, Unity is your framework right now. So you're learning to program in Unity. So later on, once you're good at programming in Unity, if you wanted to think about how do I start programming with the backend development tools, you'll find that you're still writing code in the same way, but the set of tools is different. You'll benefit a lot from the time that you spent on game development, and your learning curve for backend development will be easier. There's also, in my opinion, especially based on the work that I've done, there's nothing wrong, as I've been saying, with like starting with the thing that you're passionate about. So what I'm doing right now is a bit closer to software engineering and a bit closer to backend development. But I started off being just 100% focused on games. If I hadn't been doing game development, I wouldn't have had the motivation and the energy to learn programming at all. Games design and games programming is what got me sort of focused and energetic towards doing that. Otherwise, I wouldn't have spent the time and energy. But after doing that for a while, I found that now I'm actually more interested in kind of like deep tech and programming and like front end and back end development than I ever was before. So games kind of like helped me get to that point, and I wouldn't have gotten to that point if I hadn't started with games.
You okay with that, Sebastian? Yeah. I do have actually one more question. I don't want to keep it too long, but like everything's been so insightful. Like, thank you very much.
Sure.
And this question's a bit more. It's a little bit more personal. I hope you don't mind. Because what I know that a lot of young people face, and what I faced when I was starting out, is like imposter syndrome. And like, you know, when you first learn something and then you feel like you're really good at it, but you see all these other people that seem like they're wizards, and you know, you kind of feel like you're not good enough. Do you have an experience with imposter syndrome yourself?
Yeah, definitely. I think most people experience that, and it's very useful and really helpful when you hear other people say the word imposter syndrome, because I only learned about imposter syndrome when I was 3 or 4 years into university, and I didn't know it was a thing. I think my experience with it was when I got that scholarship to attend GDC, and I felt terrible the whole time because I didn't feel like I deserved it. I knew it was like, oh, it's just stupid luck that I got this scholarship. Someone just looked at my application and liked it. It wasn't based on merit at all. Everyone around me is much more experienced. They've spent a lot more time working on games. They're much better at what they do. I'm nowhere close to their level, and yet I'm still here. And it really dampened that experience for me. And I didn't really understand what I was feeling, and also that most other people feel that at different points of their lives as well. But then we actually had someone come and talk about their experience with imposter syndrome when I was at university. There was some alumni that came at university, and they talked about that. And that kind of helped me understand that that's exactly what I've been feeling. You will feel that. Everyone feels that at multiple times when you're trying to do something. But it's kind of like this idea that progression and improvement isn't like a straight line up. It's always like this. It's like a graph that goes up and down, but there's like a general trend that's going upwards. So you'll get good at something and you feel really good. And then you realize there's so much more you don't know and you feel really bad. But then that'll help you get even better. And then that'll happen again. But if you reflect on it, you find that you are actually improving overall over time, even if you don't feel it in the moment. If you look back, you'll see so much better than I used to be. The other thing is, I'd say, the reality is that there are certain bars that people expect you to meet when you're trying to do something, when you're trying to join a course, join university, get a job, anything like that. And at first you won't meet the bar. That's just how it is. Everyone feels that way. It happens to everyone. The most important thing is that you don't let that discourage you. If you don't meet the bar, what you do is you ask the person for feedback. Hey, what do you think I could have done better? What do you think is keeping me from meeting the bar right now? And you have to go up and you have to improve yourself a little bit. And you won't even realize it, but you push past the bar at some point. And the next time you try and get that thing, you'll be the overqualified person for that thing. So whether that's a job, whether that's university admission, the second, third time that you do it, you'll be among the top people who are trying to get that thing now. And it's fine that it took time. It's fine that it took effort, but you're there now. And I think that thing just repeats over life again and again.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I kind of feel like everyone needs to hear someone else say that, like that I've also experienced the imposter syndrome and it's very normal because no one's success story is the same, right?
Yeah.
So that's thank you so much. That
was happy to do that. I hope this was helpful. I hope you found something useful out of this. Sure. Yeah, just keep at it. Build cool stuff. That's it. Build cool stuff.
It sounds corny, but just believe in yourself, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Does anyone have one? You have a question?
Yeah. How long does it take for you after knowing you are interested in gaming to develop more skills?
Sorry, could you repeat that? How long does it take?
How long does it take for you after understanding your interest in gaming design to improve and get more skills?
So it's a good question. It's a difficult one to answer because, in my opinion, a lot of that is subjective, right? It depends what you're trying to do at the moment, right? Like if you start with something small, right? Like you start with trying to make a very simple 2D game that has like 5 minutes of gameplay to it, and you try and learn everything you need to learn to be able to do that, and you get that you're able to make like a small game that you can enjoy for a few minutes. But then it depends which area you're trying to get better at and what level you're trying to get at with that, right? So you just have to kind of take it incrementally. You have to try and like break down everything into small pieces. Here's like 5 small things that I want to get better at and that I can do over like a couple of weeks. And you just do that. If you want to think about what level you want to reach with a certain skill, what I'd say is take a look at find a bachelor's course in the area that you're interested in, right? So if you're interested in design, find a bachelor's course in design and just look at the list of subjects they have. So if they're over 4 years, they're expecting you to cover these 10 subjects, right? If you know what those subjects are and you just learn the basics of those subjects, you'll be very close to what you will have at the end of graduating that course. And you'll have learned almost all the skills you need to be good at that particular thing. Does that make sense?
I have a question about AI. Sorry to keep you.
No, that's fine. I don't mind.
You mentioned ChatGPT, and that's kind of the search engine AI. But there's an array of AI tools out there now.
Mm-hmm.
So one question I want to ask is, do you recommend other AI tools, especially visual ones? But also, what is the feeling in your industry regarding AI? Is there fears that it's going to rule out some jobs there? And is it going in a dangerous direction? That kind of thing. So first of all, other good AI tools?
Yeah, it's a few different questions there. So, about the AI tool. So I would recommend that you don't really need to look at a different one for now while you're starting out, because ChatGPT is just, it's fast, it's easy to use, and it does a lot of good stuff, and it's very powerful. So if you just focus on using that tool and just trying some simple things like answer this question for me, create this thing for me, write this piece of code for me, how do I do this, how do I do that, just try asking it those simple questions and using those questions, using the answers in your work. That's a really good starting point. There are other AI tools out there, but it's not worth the effort to try and learn, to try and explore them and try and learn how to use each one independently, because they don't do things that are too different to ChatGPT right now. So you're completely fine. Just try out some stuff in ChatGPT. That's it. You'll be completely fine if you do that. You don't need to look too far beyond that for now. In the games industry, I can tell you with confidence that most companies have 100% embraced using ChatGPT for now. So we have, like, it's part of our corporate policy that everyone is allowed to create a ChatGPT account using their work email and use it for the work. So most companies are actively embracing giving everyone access to ChatGPT, and they're kind of like encouraging us to learn how to use it and learn how to use it to do our work faster, to learn new things faster. As a very quick example, I've kind of changed fields a little bit right now in the games programming space, from being like a gameplay programmer to a engine or rendering programmer. And that change has been actually really fast and easy for me with the help of ChatGPT. There's things that I don't understand, new technologies, new pieces of code that I don't know what they do, and I've been able to learn them much faster by relying on ChatGPT as an assistant, as someone that I can ask questions when I don't understand anything. I can copy paste a piece of code into ChatGPT and just ask it, what does this piece of code do? And it'll explain to me step by step, like, what every single line is doing. And that just speeds up your learning so much. And yeah, the industry is 100% pushing for everyone to be using that. There's a little bit of risk, of course, with, so the two main risks, in my opinion, with ChatGPT. The first one is that it might actually, it's possible that if you rely on it too much, you don't learn. So especially if you're interested in getting a job, fundamentals are still super important. So you can use ChatGPT to teach you how to program, but in the end, it's really important you understand the fundamentals of programming, which you can figure out by, again, looking at what a programming course covers and studying every single piece that the programming course would cover. So if you know those different things, then you have the fundamentals. If you don't have those things, even if you can get things done using ChatGPT, it'll be very hard for you to get a job. So over-reliance on ChatGPT can be a bit of a risk. And the other thing is, there is a bit of risk, a little bit of possibility of, as people say, like ChatGPT making some jobs less important or less in demand. But the thing is, at least for now, what's more likely is that people who are able to use ChatGPT to learn faster, get better at their job, and use it to also speed up their work, they are sort of pushing ahead and they're getting better opportunities. They're able to learn faster, they're able to do better. So those people are ahead of people who are completely trying to ignore the tool or act like the tool won't have an effect on their life. It's not replacing jobs completely. I think it'll be a very long time before that's possible, but it can, in a way, replace you if you refuse to embrace the tool, if you refuse to use the tool. Then you'll just be slower than the other person who has learned to use the tool well.
That's amazing. Thank you. That's a really
Yeah,
good
no worries. Yeah.
Yeah. The talk has been amazing. Thank you. Cameron,
Yeah, happy to do that. Yeah.
Any more closing questions?
Yeah, no, it's very insightful. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm really happy to do that. Hope everyone has a good time. Hope you make some fun stuff. Yeah, if you post images or something on your social media or on your website, I'd like to see what everyone ends up making.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
you too. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good day. Thanks. on the